Henry Cavill is going back to playing Superman, which is all good news. And I think most of us would probably agree that you know, I just want to see him in a good Superman movie. He's waited like 10 years for this.
Yeah.
I think he's earned it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it takes freaking Warner Brothers being $50 billion in debt to get new management in there to look around and be like, what the fuck are we doing? Well, why are we investing in 2 different Black Superman projects? Why are we trying to replace Superman with Latinx Supergirl? Let's get Henry Cavill back in here and let's make some fucking money. It shouldn't be that hard of a decision, but finally we got there somehow.
And everybody knows I hate Man of Steel. I hate BBS. I hate Snyder's Vision. Shout out to Zack Snyder though. Good, he's a great guy. He loves geeks and gamers. But
he actually RSVP'd for the meetup. We had to turn him away. So.
Yeah.
He's always like, drinker, come on, let me on open bar. And I was like, nah, you're not good enough, Zach. Sorry.
Yeah, you're not associated with us there, Zacky Poo. But yeah, I am really excited for Henry Cavill returning as Superman because even though I don't like the movies, he is the perfect casting, and it's not even close. And seeing his appearance at the end of Black Adam, obviously they're tapping into the Superman that I want him to be, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do. But he deserves it. He's a great guy. He's an icon. And hopefully they give us, a Superman that inspires and everything like that. So we'll see. I'm excited about it, though.
How crazy must that be, though, to have been actors listening to Zach talk about the many, many years of the future that's going to be for these storylines? It all comes crashing down. Not even sure you're playing the character anymore. And then Warner Brothers are like, we have a new plan. You're with us? You're like, okay. And then The Rock is like, can't wait for us to lead the DCU. You're like, yeah, sure. Whatever.
It's,
I mean, it's just like Ryan. I know you keep up with a lot of this stuff. So, like, what are the discussions going on? Are they going to reboot, basically a soft reboot? Like, what is the plan?
I don't know. Hearing? So, what I know about the Flash is that they brought Henry Cavill in to do footage, to do shooting for it. I think in either late August or early September. The same time where Ezra Miller was back on set for Warner Brothers doing additional photography for the Flash. Henry Cavill was in town. This is before everything was confirmed. Henry Cavill was in town. Ben Affleck was in town, and Gal Gadot. They were all in LA at the exact same time. So I think all those people are going to be in the Flash. I don't think you're going to be rebooting it. I think there might be a couple things that change with this Flashpoint. No fucking idea what they're really going to do with it. But from what it sounds like, there's going to be an actual standalone Henry Cavill movie in the future. The entire future of Black Adam has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with how this performs at the box office. And honestly, it got saved because it got announced that it's going to have a Chinese release. If it didn't have that, this movie would fucking lose money, and it's not even close. Like, this movie is not doing well at the box office, and solely because it will be released in China is why it may be profitable. But I don't know what the plan is. James Gunn is coming in to oversee the DC universe. I liked the Suicide Squad. I thought it was fine, but I don't think that, if he's just picking who's going to do movies, if he's kind of running the thing, maybe that'll work out. I know anything's better than what they had going on.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, it's they can knock it out of their own way. They need to have a clear vision for what they're doing. They need to stop trying to be like Marvel, because they had half the time they were trying to be like Marvel, half the time they're trying to create something else. It just, none of it worked. I mean, we're talking about a company that thought for all of my problems with Snyder's movies, to think that Joss Whedon was going to carry out Snyder's vision would not that's just not it's not a good template. Like, I would have much rather seen a Joss Whedon from the ground up.
Wait.
Then
So you're saying
That's why. That's what
so you're
was
saying
gonna
to me
happen,
that
right?
you didn't want to see more of hold on.
In the mustache. Or...
Yeah, you just want to see more of this.
Hope is like your fucking keys there, kid. Don't worry, they'll come back.
It just gets me every
look at
time.
Even
That
if you lose
fucking
them, you'll
face.
find it again. God,
Yeah, I think the
hate
idea
it.
was that they got him to finish it under the promise he would get his own projects to build from the ground up, right? Like Batgirl. And he said Black Girl.
Hey, Wally, that's what it became. So
So, yeah, I think because it was just a disaster. Yeah, because you are right.
Yeah, I know. I'll give Whedon a little bit of credit. They brought him in at the 11th hour when the movie was essentially shot, and it's like, fix this, please. It's a disaster. And
Yeah, I don't
like,
necessarily blame him as much as just like, why would you think that would be the guy that could take Snyder's vision and do anything?
It's because the entire way that this was framed from the beginning was we have to chase Marvel. And that's why the direction of the DCEU is so boom, 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 like back and forth, because they were constantly trying to play this game that they didn't need to. And ironically, now you're seeing with people getting tired, at least of bad movies in Marvel, but people are just looking for something else other than the Marvel formula. And ironically, I think if they had stayed the path, they would have presented people with, hey, we're not trying to be Marvel light, which you would never be able to succeed with what they had laid out. But we're trying to be something different, like an alternative that people could still enjoy and get into. And but they wanted, hey, make this Avengers. That's what they did. That's the same thing they did with David Ayer's Suicide Squad movie. They're like, hey, let's beat the shit out of this until it looks like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
But then, ironically, their most successful ones are exactly like you've said. It's when they go completely the opposite direction. They do something like Joker, which is like dark, gritty, like R-rated, a serious movie. Same thing with The Batman. You know, they went like super gritty and grounded with that. That's the good alternative to Marvel. That's what you should be aiming for. But then there's only so many characters they can use that can do that kind of thing. And also, there was always that desire to, well, we want to do our own version of the Avengers. We want to have the big team-up movie. We want to make a shit zillion dollars. We want to just start churning this stuff out and get consistent hits.
We want to fast forward all the build-up for that as well. But which direction is it going in, though? Because you've got, obviously, they brought James Gunn in from, is it May next year? I think he officially joins. And you've got Henry Cavill saying that he wants to give everybody a Superman who is bright and cheerful and optimistic and hopeful. Combine bright, cheerful, optimistic, hopeful, and James Gunn, that would suggest to me more of a Marvel direction than a darker, grittier one. But
well, I think the problem they've had as well is like these dark, gritty movies don't tie into the larger extended DC universe. They're just like these weird standalone projects that don't have necessarily much franchise potential.
They're too afraid to go that way. They're too afraid to make because they're still trying to replicate Marvel. The idea that you brought James Gunn in, there's going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 released while James Gunn is like head of the DC universe. You know what I mean? Like, how crazy is that to think about?
At this point, Marvel are probably like, oh yeah, like they dumped the boyfriend, threw him out of the house, and then he found another girl, and now they're like, fuck you, like finish Guardians 3 and get out of here. It's like, all right.
Well, the problem is DC has Superman and fucking Batman. You shouldn't be chasing anybody. You shouldn't be trying to mimic anybody. But you should be the Pied Piper. You should be the company that's creating the standard that everybody else is trying to follow. And the fact that they're following characters like Iron Man and Hulk and all those characters are great and everything. They are nothing compared to Batman and Superman in the hierarchy of superheroes. They're just not. It's not even close. So they need to realize that.
Is the extended universe thing itself kind of a problem? I mean, if you look at the most successful, I think the Nolan Batman trilogy has got to be considered the most successful of the sort of the DC hero films for however long, not notably part of an extended universe. Right. Is the obligation or the sense of obligation to tie it into this grander story, to replicate Marvel in the structure as well as in sort of the tone and the style itself kind of, would they maybe be better, given their experience with standalone films recently, to actually just focus on sort of self-contained, maybe 3-episode arcs or 3-film arcs, and then just move on and don't try and create this overarching story?
Creatively, yes. Financially, no.
Yeah, good point.
Well, I think that the reason Marvel did it is because they didn't have, like, let's not forget, Iron Man was not a A-list character before Robert Downey Jr. took that role. He just wasn't. He was a B-list character in the comics. He was never Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Wolverine. He was never those guys. So Marvel did all of that knowing that they didn't have the megastar. So DC doesn't need to collaborate with these characters to create successful films. They just don't. Wonder Woman doesn't need that. Wonder Woman's an icon. So DC doesn't need to do that. Marvel needed to do that with Captain America was not an A-lister before the MCU made him into an A-lister. DC doesn't have that problem, but they act like they have that problem. They act like, oh, Superman needs Batman and Batman needs Superman and Wonder Woman has to be there. Like, no, you don't. They don't need that.
I think the difference is, like, you can use that as a launch pad for smaller characters. Like, who would have given a fuck about Ant-Man? But then when he's tied into a larger extended universe, it's like, well, I kind of need to watch his movie because it's probably going to have things in it that tie into, like, the larger narrative that I'm really invested in. That's your rising tide that lifts all ships, you know? Whereas, you're exactly right. You've got Batman, you've got Superman, you've got Wonder Woman, but kind of beyond that, you don't have many more characters that have got that kind of name recognition for the general public. And so
you tell me a Booster Gold movie wouldn't make money? Are you kidding me?
Just out of curiosity, who cares about Ant-Man though?
I mean,
No.
yeah,
I
like the first one. I like the first movie, but I never would have cared about it if it wasn't. I'm not looking forward to the next Ant-Man story. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, who gives a shit about Quantum Mania?
Yeah, I do care very deeply about what they did to Wasp's hair. They fucking butchered it. So they just wanted to make her look like another generic Marvel lesbian, I guess. But yeah, that is the thing, and that's what you can do is when you do have these characters, all of a sudden Ant-Man can make $500, $600, $700 million just because it's connected to all this stuff and people want to tell the story. For DC, like part of the mandate was, hey, we have to make a Superman movie, then we need to introduce Batman, then we need to have a Justice League movie. Like that was what Warner Brothers wanted to do. They wanted to fast track to an Avengers level event.
Yeah.
And they should have just taken their time with it. They didn't. And ever since then, it's just been hey, a lot of people thought this was too dark. Let's tweak everything that we were planning because of this reaction. All right, hey, that wasn't so great. Let's do it the exact fucking opposite this time. And it's just not a way to plan. And that's why you've seen chaos at Warner Brothers and DC over the past 5 or 6 years, because nobody there has been able to stick to a plan. And it's to the point where basically everyone got fired. They're bringing in Henry Cavill again, and they're trying to, because you also can't reboot it necessarily because they see this tangible, hey, Wonder Woman was well received. Now people hated Wonder Woman 84, but they're still thinking about that first Wonder Woman. Aquaman made $1 billion fucking dollars, so they don't want to
never
recast
understand how
Jason
that
Momoa.
made $1 billion.
Jason Momoa took his shirt off, and all these thirsty women out there in their late 30s and 40s who are now making She-Hulk. All these thirsty women out there went and saw it, and but yeah, so they're really stuck in this weird place, and I don't know what the hell they're gonna do.
They are really, they've got a really shit situation that they're in, and like I'm in the same position. If someone was to hand me the reins of the DC EU and say, right, fix this, I would not know what the fuck to do. Like, because the obvious temptation is just like, cut your losses, reboot the entire thing, we're going to start over, because this is fucked. But then, yeah, like you say, you've got characters and you've got franchises that have real potential, but it's like they don't have the ability to tie it together into a cohesive, overarching story. That's the thing that they just don't know how to do. And yeah, okay, Cavill's back. Fuck knows what's going on with Affleck. Who's the Batman now? Don't know. Like, it's all over the place. And yeah, I don't know how they can unify this into some kind of cohesive storyline that's going to drive everything forward. It is a mess right now.
I can think of like one production I'd be quite interested in seeing. You get Ricky Gervais in, because he specializes in really awkward sitcoms. Ricky Gervais to do essentially kind of a documentary style production of Ezra Miller's first day back on set, and then just make it as awkward and comedic as you possibly can. And you would just need to film actual footage.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Like that would be good. And Ezra Miller, who is accused of all this vile shit, because they are broke. I think that's the thing that people forget. Warner Brothers is broke. They're trying to cut all the costs they can. Remember a couple months ago when the report came out that Warner Brothers only has enough money left for this fiscal year to release 2 movies, Black Adam and Don't Worry, Darling. Don't Worry, Darling was a complete and total flop. Black Adam, it could still be a flop depending on what happens with China. This is a company that's $50 billion in debt. So they don't have the ability to be like, hey, Ezra Miller's grooming people and breaking into people's houses drunk and spitting on people. They cannot sacrifice that $200 million that they've spent. They just can't do it financially. They have to find a way to make him palatable to people.
That's a tough sell. That really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get your point. Like they've already shit canned a whole bunch of movies. You know, they killed Batgirl. They've killed Supergirl. Like one was obviously complete, the other one was just in the early stages. But like that's a lot of money down the drain. And yeah, how bad must it be that you actually kill an entire movie and never release it?
From the same company that put out Birds of Prey.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
This
That is
bird's
true.
great.